You either have it or you don't have it. There is so many people who are trying, and you either have, unique, interesting opinions, or you don't. You can't really manufacture them unless you started 15 years ago, like for example in Strength and Power, and you have already 1.5 million followers. That then you can just say whatever and you're gonna get the views. But really, if you're trying to break through now, you need to have, you need to be interesting. You need to somehow manage to, keep the attention, to, again, have your own opinions, and being consistent. Also, it's also very important.
Welcome back to the Unwracked podcast. I'm Andrew Barry, your host, and I'm joined by my co-host Kyle Wilkes. Today we have a guest that many of our listeners already follow. They already know his voice. He makes great videos on bodybuilding happenings. He keeps us apprised on what's going on in the industry. I particularly like his show recaps, providing colorful commentary along the way. Today's guest is Ivan Banjanac, and he goes by Ivan Bodybuilding on YouTube. Ivan, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
Thank you, man. Thank you guys for inviting me. That was perfect pronunciation of my last name. This is the first time an American pronounced it perfectly, actually. I feel
honored then. I feel honored then. Yeah. I did try. I do go the extra mile.
It's usually Banjanac. That's how you would pronounce it. But
oh, really? Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, us stupid Americans, we don't understand anything beyond like my last name, Barry, Kyle's last name, Wilkes. It's like real simple, 1 or 2 syllables. That's all we're used to over here, Yeah. But Ivan, I learned about your channel, I want to say 2021 or 2022. I was watching some bodybuilding videos and your video came up, and it was the video where you were breaking down some of the shows, and you were going over Florian and how bad he looked in Classic, and my mind was blown with how funny and descriptive you were, because you were giving us the information, but it was just like, oh my God, like when I say, I had some people at my house, we might have been smoking some of the wacky tobacco. We were rolling on the ground laughing, like tears coming out of our eyes. That's how funny you were. And so I'm like, I got to follow this guy. And I've watched, at least pieces of your videos ever since then. The other thing I wanted to say is I respect how you bring, the information, you bring the happenings of what's going on in our industry, while also being someone that bodybuilded yourself and also coaches athletes. And I think we see some of these other shows where guys are trying to talk about athletes being dry or full, but they've never done it themselves. And it's like, how do you really know what the words you're using? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I respect the fact that you've walked the walk, you know what you're talking about, and you present it in a colorful way. So very entertaining, in my opinion. Okay?
Okay, thank you, man. Thank you. Really nice words. And I got to say, I've been following you as well for a long time, Andrew, especially at the Blood, Sweat, and Gear. That's like probably my second favorite podcast so far.
Okay,
yeah,
nice.
Fuad's podcast first, of course, and then you guys. But ever since I found this channel, Unwracked, I've been watching. I think I watched all of them. I think maybe there are a few left. But also I learned about Kyle recently, when you started Kyle working with Nick. But you guys are you're so knowledgeable, it's crazy. I'm coaching myself, but I'm not on that level with knowledge, I'll just say it, not even close.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys crazy, encyclopedias, bodybuilding.
So to kick things off, obviously, as Andrew said, we kind of knew about your channel. I've been consuming much more content in the recent few months, we'll say, for various reasons. But I got to go back to the beginning now to ask you what was the first piece of content that made you think, people want to hear from me?
Well, it was actually, I was watching Louis Marco for a long time, and then he retired, and we were left with Nick Strength and Power only. And, I was kind of forced to watch him because I wanted to see, the bodybuilding news. And I didn't enjoy watching him too much because he was, boring. And also, as Andrew says, Louis Marco didn't compete as well, but I think Nick probably understands bodybuilding even less, to be honest. Mm-hmm. So I was like, there is a space for somebody who maybe does bodybuilding, understands it better, and also maybe has a bit of a sense of humor, and maybe can make it a little bit less dry, a little bit more interesting. So at that time, I started teaching English online. There's a thing we do in Serbia, like to Japanese, Chinese people, and so on. It's something to make money. I was like maybe 20-something, 23 maybe. And I realized that when I talk about bodybuilding to my students, I'm very passionate and I speak well, and they like to hear what I have to say, even though they don't follow bodybuilding. And I was like, if I can do this now, I can start a channel maybe. And I started, I think the first video was maybe Arnold Classic prediction, 2019, I think, yeah. And I mean, I started in like after a month, the views were already like, I was earning money, you know. So I was like, I'm going to continue doing this, and I enjoyed it, and yeah, the rest is history.
Very cool. And then, what was the first for those of our viewers who haven't had a chance to check your stuff out? I'm sure they will after this. But what was the first video that kind of, I don't know, was your first breakthrough where it caught traction or quote unquote went viral, something like that?
Well, there is one of my first videos, maybe like in that first month, that is the most viewed video of all time. That has almost like 2 million views.
Wow.
It's just Roelly Winklaar cramping up. It's like a 1 minute video. Before the shorts were even a thing. But you know, I don't think there is a video that made me maybe break through. Like, it was very gradual. You know, this is the kind of content I'm making, really. It's like gathering the audience slowly. You know, there are videos that go viral, but it doesn't really, you know, create the audience.
Yeah. Okay. Now, my next question for you, I guess when you start, there's a lot of people out there that are getting into podcasting. We're kind of recently new at doing it, right? But then there's also people that perhaps are trying to grow on social media, trying to create a brand. For you, what was your strategy early on? Now, I know you're sharing that, hey, you feel like your students kind of appreciated the way you spoke on things, so let you bring it to a wider audience. But when you started, I'm sure, did you have a strategy? Was it chaotic? Like, what did that look like?
I don't think I really had a strategy. I mean, I was learning about SEO, not that SEO, search engine optimization. I was trying to implement what I can, you know, and really it was just enjoying it. I mean, I'm still very passionate with bodybuilding, and I was then. I just wanted to, you know, I didn't have too many friends around me who were into bodybuilding, so I kind of created a community online, you know, where I can speak my mind. And I always kind of had like different opinions. I was listening to other people, you know, saying their opinions. And I was always like, I don't agree with that. I think it's this way. And then I was able to actually, you know, express my opinions online. And it seemed like a lot of people liked that and agreed with me. So really it was just enjoying it. I don't think I had a strategy per se. You know?
Would you say now, because you know you built a name as someone that kind of breaks some news, someone that does good show recaps, would you say now you have people maybe in the audience, people that follow you that are sending you information, like some breaking stuff, like, yo, I just saw so and so cramp over and fall over backstage, or like, are you getting some of those breaking news from fans or people in the audience, that kind of thing?
Oh yeah. I mean, you asked me before we started, do I watch everything just to be in? Not really. Like, I watch everything. I watch only what I enjoy, but that's most of it, pretty much. Like most of the important stuff. But yeah, the fans and the followers keep sending me. Whenever something interesting happens, I get like 20 DMs of that, even after I see it. But I usually see it very fast. I don't think I need them to let me know. There are also Instagram pages who are very quick with the updates, and I can see what's happening there as well. But yeah, sometimes I catch something interesting in the podcast, long form. Yeah.
Let me ask a follow-up to that. Is there any, you know, piece of information that comes across your phone and you're like, let me wait a second and let me double check and try to get to the source? Like, are you developing relationships with a lot of the top bodybuilders, the coaches, so that you can like get some confirmation on things here and there?
Here and there, yeah, but not that often, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because, you know, sometimes usually the truth is less interesting than what I can assume that might be the truth. So sometimes I just make a video, say what I think, and then sometimes they get in touch with me, explain, and then I explain it again.
Yeah. Makes for double content then.
Exactly.
Very nice. And now, I guess, ultimately, since you've been doing it quite successfully of late especially, do you have, like, what's one thing you would share with someone that's maybe getting into, I don't want to call it newscasting or reporting, even though it's kind of a niche, right? You're breaking news. Do you think it's more about necessarily being consistent? Is it more about the delivery? What is that? What can you share in that regards?
Well, I would say, first of all, you either have it or you don't have it. You know, there is so many people who are trying, and you either have, you know, unique, interesting opinions, or you don't. You can't really manufacture them unless you started 15 years ago, like for example in Strength and Power, and you have already 1.5 million followers, that then you can just say whatever and you're gonna get the views. But really, if you're trying to break through now, you need to have, you need to be interesting. You need to somehow manage to, keep the attention, to, again, have your own opinions, and being consistent. Also, it's also very important, but it's not everything. Like I know a lot of guys who are trying, they're making videos all the time, every day, but it's just not happening.
On that note, was there a time or like a moment where you started looking at, say, the YouTube money coming in and whatnot, where you're like, I can actually make a career out of this. This could be a substantial part of my income, and maybe I don't need to maybe do the English lessons anymore, or maybe I can focus a little less on my coaching business. Was there a moment like that for you?
Oh yeah, I mean, like before I was doing those lessons, I was working in a factory. And like Serbia is a very poor country. Like my salary was maybe like $200 a month working 8-hour shifts. And
wow.
The prices of food are not that much cheaper than in the US, for example.
Really?
Yeah, so really my goal was to just find, and it's something that's going to help me to have enough money to buy the food for bodybuilding, some gear, and that's it. And when I saw that I can make something out of YouTube, I was like, yeah, I'm all in. This is awesome. And then I actually started learning more and more. And then also I started coaching and everything. So I developed it. But at the beginning, the only goal was to just escape the poverty. That was it. Be able to bodybuild.
I got to follow up about life in Serbia because, over here in America, we're kind of sheltered in a sense. You know what I mean? It's... We get worldly news, but we don't really know what it's like. You know what I'm saying? And obviously there's a reason why everyone tries to come to America, because it is the land of plenty. But so you were telling me that a good monthly salary is about $200, something like that, right?
It's not good. It's like the worst possible. But yeah,
okay.
That's what I had back then.
But what would you say like the average is for like a working age male? Like what is he taking home every week?
Well, at that time it was maybe like maybe 300, something like that. Right now, I think the minimum wage is like $500, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
And many people have that much. Yeah.
Okay, and then you have like your gym membership. You got to get gas for your car to get to the gym. You got to buy your food.
Gas is much more expensive than in the U.S. actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So I'm just trying to paint a picture for our viewers of like, anytime people over here, they think, oh, I got it so hard. And it's like, really? I mean, because it sounds like if you want to bodybuild in Serbia, you really got to want to bodybuild. You got to really make the sacrifice financially, time-wise. You got to work extra hours just to afford enough chicken breasts, enough rice. Tell us a little bit more about that, like, because I think our people would be interested.
Yeah, I mean, like, I traveled, for example, in Egypt a couple of years ago, and on a vacation. And when I came back to Serbia, I realized Serbia is actually a rich country, because it's not like over there, it's all sand and there's no water. People are dying of thirst. It's not like that in Serbia. Like, we have the potential to be a very rich country, but there is a lot of corruption. So, everybody kind of finds a way to make it, Like, we're not dying of hunger, but really it is tough for sure. And if you want to bodybuild especially, like, there isn't a lot of successful bodybuilders from here, because, like, I don't think I know anybody who can afford, like, 20 IUs of GH or something like that.
Yeah.
It's difficult. I mean, I kind of managed with YouTube, thank God, but it's very rare.
Yeah. So speaking more about bodybuilding, I pulled up some good contest pictures of you that we're going to put on the show. But when was your last prep?
Last year, 2024.
It was, okay. Mm-hmm. And what was that show?
Banjanac Classic.
Okay, gotcha. And the year before that, you did like the World Championships, I believe, IFBB World Championships?
And European, yeah.
And European, gotcha. And you won both of those, right?
I was second at the Worlds, but I won the overall of the Europeans in my division, yeah.
Excellent, excellent. So what are the plans for you going forward? Are you trying to compete and get an IFBB Pro card? Is that in the cards for you in terms of what you want to do?
Honestly, I'm not sure at this point, because, like, I competed in the IFBB over here, European, and I had this national sponsorship of a sort, for placing well at the Worlds and the Europeans, and eventually I got banned because they started testing really hard, yeah, and after that I was like, I'm gonna give it all I got and try to win a pro card to see where I'm at in the NPC, and I took like 20 months. and I gave it all. Really, I was blasting gear like never before. I was eating, I was eating a lot. I got to like over 270, I think, and I prepped for 6 months. I think I tried my best, really, and I placed second. And the guy who won the pro card, and then later he went and did FIBO and placed dead last in the pro show. So I was like, and I wasn't really close to beating him. You know, I saw what the shape really looks like when somebody really has it, and that guy was really had great genetics.
Okay.
And you know, at that point, I was like, I can continue, you know, trying to just, you know, win a pro card. I can probably do it, but I guess I was delusional enough until that point. I thought that maybe like once I reach my weight capping classic, I can be good enough to maybe like get to the Mr. Olympia, for example. But I think that show kind of showed me that I probably can't do it. Yeah.
I look at the pro card because you know we have so many genetic freaks now. Like guys that you take a look at them when they're 22, and you're like, okay, you give him 3 years of gear, you give him the right coaching, he's going to go to the like. I mean, Kyle had that experience with Anton, right? I mean, you saw him when he was young, you saw exactly what he's going to have, and here he is now. He's going to the Olympia, right?
Yeah.
A couple years into the league. And then for everyone else, I feel like it's like a hard work and like, you know, logging the hours kind of thing. And it's almost like an advanced degree in bodybuilding. Like you show that you put the time in, whether that's 5 years, 10 years, in some people's cases, 15 years to get to that level with the understanding like, look, no dream about going to the Olympia. Like I'm not delusional, you know. I just want to say, hey, I beat enough guys to get to that level and get those 4 letters after my name, that kind of thing. But anyway, going back to, you know, some of your preps, what would you say? Because what's your height? Aren't you kind of tall?
Yeah, 6'2", I mean, in inches, I think, 187, something like that.
Yeah, okay, because I thought you were a taller guy, because you have a physique similar to mine, taller, lankier, a little bit harder to fill out, that kind of thing, you know. Well, tell what was your hardest and your best prep so far?
The hardest. Well, I would say maybe the hardest one was like the first time I got really shredded. And but I was so driven that year. I just wanted that. I never won before that. I competed like 2 seasons before that. I was always second, third, and then that 1 year I got a new coach and I really pushed it. And I kind of enjoyed the suffering in a way, even though it was super hard. But then the next year, after I placed second at the Worlds, I did Europeans, and that was maybe like a couple of months later. And I kind of connected those 2 preps. I stayed very lean after the Worlds, and you know, I couldn't have done it any other way. Of course, I wouldn't get fat in like those 2 months. Yeah. But staying in shape for that long, that was mindfuck, really. Like, I know it was so difficult. And I was using so many stimulants. I think that also maybe increased my anxiety and everything. And I was just, I was a mess. I remember that prep was terrible. And also I was prepping and I knew they're probably going to test us. And I already had this sponsorship. And I knew if they test me, I'll lose it. So I was literally going to a show to lose money, and it was difficult, you know, physically as well. So that was crazy. Yeah.
Now you touched on earlier, kind of going all in for 20 months, right? To where, I guess, take us through what your definition of all in is, and compared to, I guess, prior to those first 2 seasons that you competed. I know you mentioned more drugs, so you can go into detail there if you want, and then ultimately, for the person listening that is in the same shoes where they've been putting in 5 or 6 years and they just don't have potentially the Chris Bumstead genetics, because 99.9% of us don't. What was the ultimate, as you look back, do you regret going all in for 20 months? Is it worthwhile because it opened your eyes? Like, take us through that.
And I never even thought about, do I regret? I don't regret it. I enjoyed it for sure. I was huge at that time and I loved training and everything. It was fun. But I probably could have done more. I know one thing I could have done better, that was posing. I wasn't practicing posing almost at all. But as far as like what I was doing in those 20 months, I mean, I didn't skip any meals. I was eating a little bit too much. I was really forcing my food. Probably got a little bit too fat, but still, you know, I was on it, like as far as the meals. And as far as the drugs, I increased it. I tried a little bit higher doses, but I realized that it was probably pointless. I don't think that helped at all. I went, I think, 1.5 grams of test, for example. It was maybe like 600 and also 800 masteron. and maybe like 300 and then 450 milligrams of NPP. And at some points I would sprinkle some Anadrol or Dianabol or both. And and it was also, I think, 4 to 6 IUs of GH. And I mean, yeah, I was just doing bodybuilding and push the drugs. I maybe could have done more. I know some guys do more, but I don't think it was necessary. I found that maybe, like, for me, I don't think I can use more than maybe max 1.5 grams of total stuff. Gotcha. But yeah, I was doing that, and I prepped for 6 months. I took my time also, and I mean, I was happy with the condition I brought. I could have been leaner for sure, but I was happy and with the progress I made. But yeah, still to win a pro. I mean, I probably could have won a pro card even that year if I did like maybe 4 shows, 5 shows, if I was a little bit lucky. I think because I was second at the Banjanac Classic. That was the only show I did. But yeah, I realized that it's probably pointless.
Well, real quick though, did you run out of steam, or was it like, hey, I'm running out of money, or hey, I'm losing this sponsorship? What made you say, I think it's time to shut it down?
Well, it's actually the plan to just do that one show because Mr. Olympia was before that and so many other shows, and I wanted to make a lot of content, so I left that show for the end of the year, and also the show before that one. Another guy from Croatia was competing there, and I knew I can't beat him. And he plays second at Romania Pro to Jose Manuel recently. I think he's going to win the Mr. Olympia soon, probably. But anyways, I knew he was doing that, so there was no point going there. I tried it at the Banjanac Classic, and after that, there were no shows that year.
Okay. Now, next point of conversation here, you mentioned, so you were doing some content this time, you're competing, you're going all in, right? You're doing what you can to kind of be the best athlete that you can be. When did coaching factor in? Were you doing this on the side? Did people start to see, oh shit, this guy's like 270, he must know what he's doing? How did that start to build? And when did it become not like a side hustle, but more of like, hey, this is what I do to make my main income?
Well, I actually recently started coaching a little bit more. Up until that point, I wasn't really doing that much coaching. It started by actually one of my friends competed, and we were doing the same show, and he failed. He didn't bring good conditioning, and he wanted to stop competing for that season. But I convinced him to do the nationals and let me prep him for the next 2 weeks. And I brought him in the best ever, and he beat me. I could have won the overall Serbian national title, but yeah, he actually beat me, and he liked what we were doing, and we continued working together. And after that, the other people maybe saw it, and then I started advertising it on YouTube as well. And I really started enjoying it, honestly. Maybe I even like that more than doing YouTube now, honestly. When I'm prepping competitors. I mean, lifestyle athletes, clients, sure. I like that as well. But prepping competitors, going through the process with them, maybe living it through them. When you're there at the shows as well, especially, I love that. I really enjoy the traveling and everything.
Now, as fellow competitive prep coaches ourselves, I know we have our preferences of people that we enjoy working with, and we also have the people that I want to bang my head against the wall, right? For you, what clients do you do the best with?
Well, probably the clients that don't ask too many questions, don't suggest too much. I like feedback, but when I ask, I don't like too many suggestions. I like it kind of my way or the highway. That's the kind of a coach I am. I don't know how you are, but yeah, I like to have the authority completely, and that's it.
Right.
I mean, I think Kyle and I both have like our questionnaires, and I think we want that information answered. But like, I'll be quite honest. If someone sends me like a novel with like way too much, I'll literally just write like, "This is too long. I'm not reading. I'm sorry." Like you could be able to communicate the questions I'm asking you with answers that are like 2 sentences instead of 2 paragraphs. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. And it's really just to kind of set them up for the future for success, right? Because as a coach, when you're reading 40 or 50 of these a day, you don't want to start not taking it seriously and not paying attention because you're just like, it's like make it short, concise, and then like if we have a phone call, that's when we'll catch up and talk about everything else.
Same thing with the voice messages. I got it immediately. I'm like always text. I want to have everything so I can check later maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
But sometimes when somebody sends a novel, I actually copy and paste it on the ChatGPT and ask for a shorter version.
I've never heard that. That's good, actually. But you just copy paste and you write summarize.
Yes, exactly.
That's very smart.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. I agree with the voice notes. I think I appreciate when people want to share thoughts around other things because I think it's helpful to get past the, hey, you're number 20 on a Monday. But at the same time, some people they'll send a voice note of 4 minutes and it's like, there's only 30 seconds of this that was actually useful. And now I have to listen for 4 minutes. This is awful. You know?
Yeah, I don't do voice. Whenever they send it, I'm like, I can't listen now, write, or never write, never send voice messages, always write, and that's
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you, because you work with competitors, I'm sure you probably get some that are first-time beginners, we'll call them, right? What's one mistake that you see all beginners typically make?
You mean guys who are prepping alone for the first time?
Yeah, I would say whatever your definition of beginner. To me, it's someone that's probably doing their first show, or maybe it's their first true show. Maybe they competed, but they didn't really get in shape. But now they're coming to a coach for a proper plan and stuff like that. What do you commonly see is what you would deem a mistake?
A mistake. I mean, there are so many. Like maybe sometimes guys try to get in shape and they push a little bit too much. I think that's often the case. Sometimes they can't really see themselves and they maybe try to do something crazy in the end and then they come in too watery. And I think it's very important to have a coach, at least, even if you know what you're doing, to really look at you objectively and to really tell you what to do, even if you don't feel like doing that. So, I mean, yeah, I'm not sure. I can't really think of any big mistakes. Do you have anything? Maybe I can think of the same thing.
I would say, I think sometimes people, at least in America, right, because that's where predominantly many of my clients are. I have a few international, but I feel like all my international clients they don't ask many questions. I tell them to do something, they do it, and I appreciate that. But I think with a lot of clients I get, especially the younger generation, a lot of them think prep is kind of easier than it is. They think getting in shape is going to be a walk in the park sometimes. And the reality is, as we both know, it's not. Sometimes it's very hard to get into true contest shape. You can look awesome for a normal person, but to be under the bodybuilding lights on stage, that takes a different beast. And I think a mistake is some people don't realize what goes into it, the sacrifices they make. You know, they have relationships that start to dwindle, their job, their productivity declines, and they complain. And they're like, hey, is there any way we can go out to eat on it every Friday? And it's like, hey, that's not how I do things. I'm sure maybe you can figure it out, but I don't like that, and this is why. So to me, that's like a mistake. And it's more so the mental preparation that goes into it. What about you, Andrew?
Yeah, I think to totally echo what you're saying, I think a lot of first timers, or even not even they've done a few shows, they just never gotten peeled. I think they think it's going to be easier than it is, or I think they just haven't wrapped their head around that prep is it's supposed to suck at some point. Like, it's supposed to be brutally hard. That's why not everyone in our bodybuilders are like 0.01% of the population that get into shape. That's why there's only 0.01% of the population that walks around looking like that, because it's that friggin' hard, There's a lot of guys that are big, that can be big guys that take some steroids and like to eat and train. But to get to that elite level of conditioning where people are like, oh, wow, this guy suffered, you got to suffer. So I think dealing with what I have a problem with is when people are like, they're obsessed with fatigue management. And of course, that is part of the game, but it's like, let me make that decision for you. Let me make a decision for when we need to pull back, Like, if we're dropping, half a pound every day and you're like, hey, I'm dying, I feel like I'm dying. It's like, yeah, you're still dropping half pound a day and you're looking better and better in my eyes. So let's keep going, So that's the biggest thing I think I have to deal with the younger generation. Whereas like my older guys, because I've got people all over the map. I've got guys in their 40s, 50s, even 60s that compete still. You tell them to do something, especially if they're ex-military, they're like, yes, sir, like, it'll get done. And there's no discussion about it. There's no like, I'm sore, I'm tired. They just do the work,
Yeah.
You're right, for sure. Because I'm thinking, I'm thinking, you asked me like, should I compete again? And I'm considering it, but I'm not gonna start the prep unless I'm like really passionate about it, because I know what it takes. I don't know if I can go through the prep if I don't want it really that bad. You know?
Would you say it's because your interests are so divided now between coaching, between content creation? You're seeing yourself doing really well in those spaces. Is it just because the interest, you're kind of sharing your love of bodybuilding, splitting it between 3 different girls in a sense? You know what I mean?
You know, I would just say it's because there's one thing. I turned 30 this year, and I'm kind of more afraid now of, you know, taking drugs. That's one thing, and I don't think I can look my best if I don't take certain compounds. Maybe I can, but I don't know. That's one thing. Also, like, I kind of lost a little bit of that passion for competing, but it's kind of slowly coming back this year, because I'm kind of shifting my mindset from, I believe I'm going to get to the Mr. Olympia stage, and now maybe just winning a pro card would be cool. Okay. So if I accept that and I really miss the stage again, then I'm going to commit. But until I'm really there, you know, I'm not going to start, because I know what it takes.
Right.
Okay. Well, and speaking of what it takes, what would you say you've had the most success with in terms of what's your philosophy behind training? Are you a higher volume guy? Are you a low volume, like a high intensity train? What has worked best for you, and what do you tend to put most of your clients on when they're first starting out?
Low volume, high intensity, actually. When they're first starting out, if they're really beginners, then I give them a little bit more volume, because I think like doing more reps, more sets is going to maybe help you develop that mind-to-muscle connection more and learn how to do the exercises properly. But for the more advanced guys, like my clients that I get them, they're usually doing more volume than I like. So I usually give them less. You know, personally, I don't do more than like 2 sets per exercise, a top set and a back off set. And recently I actually started doing like maybe 1 set per exercise, you know, Dorian Yates style, Mike Manser, because not really, I didn't plan it. I kind of like did 1 really hardcore set, 4 straps and everything. And I'm like, what is the point of doing another? So if you can really be super intense, I mean, not with every muscle group, not with every exercise, but with some, you can just do 1 set and that's it. But really overall, yeah, I'm definitely low volume, high intensity.
Okay.
And do those sets, when you're saying like 1 all-out set, just for the viewer, because again, sometimes there's some ambiguity behind it, you're going to failure, I take it, right?
And beyond, like 4 straps, yeah.
Right, okay. So, and what is your take on, I guess, the whole school of thinking now where fatigue management and RPE, do you see that for beginners is helpful? Do you see it for advanced trainers? Do you see it really helpful at all?
I think the beginners will usually not get overtrained. It's very difficult. I don't think they can really go all the way out. But for more advanced, you know, if I'm coaching them, we're talking, and usually like after 5-6 weeks of pushing really hard, I give them a deload. And after that, we usually continue pushing, or like maybe a deload for like a week or 2. But yeah, I do believe fatigue management is important. I don't believe like there is no overtraining. I do believe there is overtraining for sure, but maybe a lot of people never got to that point.
Right.
Yeah.
I can agree with that.
Yeah. What you know, talking about, you know, bodybuilding, content creation, coaching, what does a day look like for you even? Like, do you set your day up of like, okay, I train at this time and then I do content creation and then I do my coaching clients? Or is it literally like you wake up, what's the most important fire I got to put out today, and I'll try to get my training in when I can?
Yeah, well, up until maybe last year, my training was the most important part of my day, really. Yeah. Everything revolved around that. Now it's a little bit less. I actually tried kind of to be less focused on my meals and my training, because again, I kind of gave up on that dream of, oh, can you hear me? My headphones.
We can hear you.
Would it work now without the headphones? I think they died.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
There is no
Yeah,
echo.
we're good.
Okay. No. So where was I? Yeah, well, basically up until like last year, it was very important for me to just get the meals in, and everything was around that. Like between the meals, I was making videos and doing the coaching and everything. But now it's I think everything revolves around my actually YouTube. So I wake up, I do my morning cardio. Right now it's like 45 minutes to an hour every day. Even though I'm not prepping or anything, I just enjoy it in the morning. And after that, I eat my meal, drink my coffee, and I get to work. I search for content or I make my videos. Later, I eat a meal, then I go train, then I come back home, and then if there is something else, maybe like another video to make, I do that. If not, I reply to my clients. I don't really have a set time. I just do it all day long. And I don't have that many clients, probably not nowhere near as you guys. So yeah, I can kind of reply to them as I go.
So moving to the future. So basically, I know you touched on the dream of maybe being an Olympian is faded a bit for now, right? Maybe to resurrect. But what's the version of you that you're building for next? Is it more of like, hey, how do I become the best coach I can be, take over my country? Is it more of, hey, I want to be the main source of news on social media and YouTube? What would you say?
Yeah, the latter for sure. Yeah. As far as being the best coach in my country, I mean, I'm not really working on that. There are a couple of guys over here that have the most clients, but I'm really focused on like the international scene, because I'm advertising through my channel, and I don't know if too many people from Serbia are following me. So really, I'm not really pushing my Instagram, my Serbian one. I am pushing maybe a little bit more the other one. So yeah, I'm kind of doing that on the side. I don't take too many clients. I enjoy it really, but my main focus is definitely YouTube. And as far as me competing, again, if it comes back, that desire, I might do it. But again, only as a hobby, really. I mean, it always was a hobby, but yeah, I guess I was delusional enough to think that maybe I can do something more.
And if you had to pick one, coaching or being an entertainer, we'll call it, what would you prefer? If you knew 5 years from now, I'm going to be here with one and the other one's going to be okay, what do you think that would be? What do you prefer it to be?
Maybe I would actually prefer to be a top coach, but I kind of know what it takes to get to that level because I'm listening to you guys. You have so much knowledge. I don't think I'm willing to really educate myself that much. I don't think I'm able actually to hold that much information in my head all the time. So yeah, I mean, and YouTube is really going well. I mean, right now I'm like probably after Nick Strength and Power, I have the most views in that field. News, I mean. So yeah, I think I'll focus on what I'm good at.
Let me follow up on that. Why do you think Nick Strength and Power does so well? Because I kind of mentioned, he's not a former competitor, and sometimes when I hear him say some of the terms that we know, like dry, full, peeled, I'm kind of like, you didn't use that right, my man. Like, why do you think? Is it because he was one of the first, or do you think like what do you think drew people into him?
Well, I think that's the main thing because he started again, like I think 10, more than 10, maybe 15 weeks, no, like 12 years ago, something like that. Mm-hmm. And it was Louis Marco before him, and Louis Marco was killing it with the views. He was having probably more than Nick does now, definitely more. And he kind of retired, and he actually told us about Nick Strength and Power. He promoted him when he retired. So at that time there was nobody else. And over the years, I mean, of course, Nick did a great job with doing good content, and he was working really hard at the beginning, especially. He's still doing well now, but I think he built the audience over the years, and I think he's doing everything, I would say, in a proper way. He's not making any enemies. He's not very controversial. He's also focusing on some topics that are about more than just bodybuilding. So like he has almost 1.5 million followers, but really he doesn't get nearly that many views because a lot of his subscribers are just some people who saw some viral video, and they click the subscribe button because he has a lot. But still he does get a lot of views, and I mean he's doing a good job still. I mean, I can say he's also American. He has the perfect accent, pretty good voice as well. I gotta say. And he's on top of everything. Maybe a little bit late, but he still makes the videos on everything that happens. So he's consistent for sure.
No, for sure. And I think that's the consistent, like I said, I think when you have what it takes, as you mentioned, because I don't think everyone can do social media. I think the people that try to portray something they're not, it's not authentic, right?
Oh, yeah.
But when someone has a good accent, they can enunciate correctly, they have good energy, and they're entertaining, I think that's what makes people hey, I mean, a lot of people say they watch our podcast, and I'm pretty monotone. I don't get too excited. I don't get too depressed. But I think people like the way we deliver the information. So it's always fascinating where I find myself watching your videos that have nothing to do with Kyle Saga, we'll call it, because it's funny. I enjoy the cuts and how you're throwing things together. The assumptions are never too off base, but they're just like, that could be true, right? I like that. With that said, we'll move into more of a rapid fire section where I don't want you to think too much on the question, just kind of blurt out what comes to mind, essentially. Okay. We'll start with, as like a creator, what's the worst video you ever made?
Well, I don't know if I should delete it. I remember it. No, I'm not going to tell you. I can't tell you what it was. I deleted it.
Yeah, but you know what? It might become your most popular video if you say it, and then everyone's going to go and watch it, and you're going to get a lot of views on it. No,
I deleted it after a couple of days. Somebody explained to me that it was bad to make that video. I mean,
what was bad about it? Was it more the way the stance you took, or was it you said something wrong?
I said something. Okay, I'll just say it. I mean, I was a kid. It was one of my first videos. It was so stupid, man. What was I thinking? So it was about Jay Cutler's new girlfriend. And it was a video about Jay, and then I showed them his new girlfriend, and I was like, it's an improvement. Like, I compared his new girlfriend to his ex, and I said the new one looks better. I mean, I don't know why did I say that, but yeah.
Well, you were young.
I was young and really stupid. Yeah.
You were on 1,500 mgs of test at the time.
Probably.
Next one. What is the hardest part of filming?
Well, it's being creative every day. You know, every day something needs to come out. You need to create something. You know, and when there is nothing happening, you need to, I don't know, find it. And maybe if there is nothing to find, you need to come up with something, some idea. Like this guy posted a photo, you need to make a story out of that. So yeah, that's definitely it. Being creative every single day.
And my last one, as far as creators go, you might have touched on it earlier, but what was the most surprising viral moment? Was it the Roelly thing?
Yeah, but at that time, I don't know, that kind of got views over time. I think I would also mention the recent videos with maybe with Mike Sommerfeld and the height controversy.
Very cool.
So, just because I'm like, maybe I'm an idiot, what is his height? I still don't know what his height is. Like, was he underheighted or overheighted?
No idea.
Up to this? Okay, so you don't know either. So we're all idiots.
Nobody knows, yeah. It's a mystery.
Well, here's my thing, okay? The guy looked classic at all the shows he did. He looked amazing. What do we really care all that much? Like, oh, he was 1 pound over Olympia. Like, you looked amazing. He placed where he placed. I don't really care about my whole take is I think we should get rid of the height and weight classes for classic. You either have a classic physique at the pro level or you do not. Join the other men's physique or bodybuilding if you're not classic and you're placing poorly. The judges will tell you with your placings.
I don't know about that. Like, I'm sure they thought about that, but also like how would they judge the shows? They would have to consider the classic lines as the criteria. That's very subjective. You know,
that's what I mean.
The criteria is a little bit more objective. You know, like if you have Logan Franklin versus Mike Sommerfeld at the Arnold Classic, like who would you give that? Logan is more classic, but Mike is so much bigger, and they're judging it as bodybuilding, basically. I mean, the classic lines are a part of the criteria, but not the main thing. If you make the weight and you're a good bodybuilder, and you need to have those lines and the small joints and everything to actually look bigger.
I think that falls back on the judges then. Like the judges should make some clearly delineated lines of, nah, man, you need to go back to open or you need to go to 212 if you're not fitting the criteria of what they're saying classic is. You know what I mean? I feel like we can look, all right, it's easy to go to, say, a local NPC show and be like instantly, oh, that guy has no business doing classic. His waist is too wide, his this or that, like he should be doing bodybuilding. Obviously, it's a little bit more nuanced as you get into the professional level. But I think still, if you're someone that's coaching tons of athletes, you're going to, we'll say 20 pro, or maybe 10 classic and open bodybuilding pro shows a year, you should be able to have an eye at that point to say, okay, that guy belongs in open, that guy belongs in classic. And I think the judges should be doing a better job of delineating that. And I know they're not going to remove the height and weight classes. I know they're not going to. I'm just saying, I don't really care that much about the height and weight. I don't care if some guy was 2 pounds over. I don't care that. If you're classic, you're classic. If you're open, we should kick you over to open. You know.
I can't really say I agree with you completely. I know what you're saying, but really we're talking about creating the division, or creating a new division, or creating the rules. The way the rules are right now, they are basically, you need to make the weight, you need to have certain classic lines, but also you need to have those lines and the small joints to look bigger. Like, I was at Romania recently and I saw that Piotr guy, I don't know if you know him, and I was looking at him and he looked enormous. I was like, how is this guy this freaking big? These guys are not even, like, I thought classic guys are much smaller, but like, he looks super big. But then I saw him walking, backstage, and he's not really that big. So with those small joints, he actually looks much bigger on the stage. So that's kind of part of it. And also, like Jose Manuel, for example, he doesn't really have the classic lines. And my guy from Croatia, who was second, he has crazy classic lines, super small waist, super small joints. And Jose Manuel doesn't really, but he has so much size, so much like width in the shoulders, crazy, some sort of a crazy grainy look to the muscle. I can't say it's muscle maturity. He's only like 22, 23 years old. It's something that you either have or you don't. So like, he doesn't have those lines, but he just looks so much more impressive, so much bigger. So he makes the weight, he looks crazy. I think that's how they judge it, really. The classic physique, the classic lines are not that big of a factor. And as far as making the weight thing, if everybody else is suffering and trying to make the weight, why would they let somebody get away with like 5 extra pounds? It's not fair to the other guys. That's the way
I totally get the arguments on both. I guess, well, here, let me give you a concrete example. There's like someone like a Ronnie Coleman. Everyone would agree that he can't walk into a classic physique pro show and win classic. It'd be like, you're too overblown, man. You're too big. You know what I'm saying? And I think there's somewhere with the eye. What's that?
98 Ronnie, that was pretty classic, I would say.
But he was still a massive bodybuilder. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but aesthetic, I would say. Small waist.
He was aesthetic. Yeah, he was aesthetic. Yeah.
Symmetrical.
Yeah, it's
just too big.
I just don't like the controversy. The controversy. Oh, is this guy classic? Is he not? It's like, who cares? Like, does he look better than the other guy today? You know what I mean? But anyway,
I have no issue with that.
Yeah. Let's turn it over to you, because I know you said you had a couple questions for Kyle and I, and if you had any on the top of your head, we'll switch the script here a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if I do. I thought it was going to be just questions for me. I have one question though, maybe like I just thought about it. Do you guys? I never heard anybody in any podcast so far, any of the top coaches, talk about the use of sibutramine. I don't know how you call it. How would you call it in English? Sibutramine, maybe similar to phentermine. You know about that? Sibutramine.
I think it's a fringe drug that I think some people are using, but like in the coaching circles of friends that coach that I'm in groups with, it's not a compound that comes up. You know what I'm saying?
I know. Nobody's using it over there.
It's like, I think, and keep in mind, I'm a little bit older than even Kyle, so a little bit more of an older school attitude, I guess you can say, especially with PEDs. But it's like, if I can't get someone in shape with clenbuterol, T3, cardio, dieting, then, okay, we'll use some of the peptides here and there. But it's like, if I can't get someone in shape with that, then I suck at my job, So I'm not looking for all these off-label compounds, I guess.
Yeah. Kyle, you haven't heard about it either.
No, haven't used. And for me, I think I don't know. I think I said it a couple times, probably even to you, perhaps. But like for me, I never want to be someone to be a guinea pig. So if I'm not going to use it myself and I can't speak to experience, if I don't see like literature behind it, that's why I'm a little hesitant with certain peptides. And I'm like, okay, like we can try it, but at the same time, a lot of peptides work synergistically together. So you're not just using one thing. So how do we know if it works, right? And what I don't want to see is, you touched on part of the reason you might, other than the realization that, okay, maybe I don't have what it takes to be an Olympian. Is it worthwhile? It's also the fact that you turn to the new decade of life, and you're just like, hey, I don't want to take 5 years off my life. So the reality is, I never want to put someone on a compound where down the road it comes out like, hey, this was actually bad for you, and wow, Kyle was actually an ambassador of pushing this on people. And yeah, it might have worked to get the job done at the time, but now 20 years later, people are losing 10 years of life. To me, I would kill myself if that was the case. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Are you seeing it being used a lot in circles you're in, even?
Not a lot, but like I've used it. I think every prep. Like for the first time, I got in shape, and after that, every prep for the last like 2 weeks maybe. I don't know if I would actually be able to endure every prep without it, because it really helps. Yeah, yeah. It was a cheat code for me, and I was surprised that nobody's using it in the U.S.
Did you notice any of the cardiovascular effects? Because I know that there's been some serious cardiovascular, side effects linked to it with prolonged use.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure it's terrible, but I haven't noticed anything, and I was young, I guess, and. I mean, it's something you do for the last 2 weeks and that's it, but it's not great. It's almost like being on speed or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it increases anxiety as well, and yeah, you can go all day long. You can do cardio all the time, all day, and you don't have hunger and anything like that. But yeah, it's a strong stimulant.
Would you say, because I know over here at least, Retta and the
That's
GLP
what I wanted to
compound
ask you. Yeah.
have really, really like I don't think I get someone asking about prep without already taking Retta or one of the compounds or asking about, hey, can we incorporate it? Are you seeing that in your coaching circles, and like are your athletes asking about it as well?
Well, actually, I think it got into Serbia maybe this year, mid this year. I heard about somebody using it. I haven't tried it yet because I didn't prep, but I had some clients who came to me and they were already using it. So I was helping them navigate, but really, I never tried it, to be honest. And I watched your video on it, and I wanted to ask you, like, I talked about this before, like, I'm not willing to suffer. If I'm not willing to suffer, I want to prep. How much does Retta help, like, with the hunger and suffering overall? I know it has so many other benefits, but with just hunger managing. What would you say?
I'm going to be honest, man, because I never used it for a prep, right? Because my last contest was 4.5 years ago, right?
Yeah, I guess.
So they weren't even a thing back then. Have I tried it? Yes, but like not the doses that even my clients take. We're talking 250 to 500 micrograms twice a week for myself. Really, just for some insulin sensitizing effects. Longevity is kind of what I'm after now, right? So. I can't really speak to that. I do have some clients where I probably top out at 2 milligrams total per week for some of them, right? And it comes down to this. I don't want to completely take away their hunger. Like, I do want to know when you're actually hungry, because that's feedback as a coach that tells us something, Like if I'm on a 3 or 5 day stretch of pushing somebody, I need to kind of know when you're really empty, when you're really dying. So I know I have information on when to start pushing the refeeds properly. So I think I probably go a little bit lower in the dosing than some of my cohorts out there. But Kyle, maybe you got something to add.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously I competed this year, right? It was the first time I ever used it. That wasn't why I competed, but I was sure going to deploy it to see the effects.
How much?
I started with 360 micrograms a day. I always do things, I microdose everything I use.
Very low, yeah.
Now, literature out there says 3 to 4 times a week is how you should use it, not necessarily every day. If you do it once a week, which again, people look at the half-life and they say, hey, you can use it once a week. Sure, like anything in life, you could take 1,500 milligrams a sip on a Monday. You should be good until next Monday. I wouldn't do that because you're going to get that main side effect being blunting of the appetite, and then you can't. So when I have some clients that come to me, whether they're using it or we just put it in, usually at first, no matter what the dose is, unless you're taking at least a milligram that first shot, you feel fine the first couple days necessarily. But when it compounds very quickly, so I always tell people to go to glpplotter.com. You can put in what GLP you're using, whether it be Wegovy, Retatrutide, or in this case, Retatrutide, right? And it shows you, based on the half-life, what the potency actually is. So I always recommend people to do that. Now, as far as blunting my appetite, I mean, I can eat. There's not a chance that it stunted my appetite. Did it suppress it for sure. I could push a little bit harder, not being so consumed with food noise. But I
But
think
that's a very low dose, right?
it usually you start around 1.5 a week. So you're talking, I don't know, 250 micrograms a day. That should be about that's 1.75.
Yeah.
So it's definitely on the lower end. And then I probably got up to just shy of 3 milligrams. And then usually I pull it out at least 5 days prior, just because when you start to push some food, I didn't want any type of issue from a GI standpoint. Now, did I notice anything with the motility slowing down? No. Obviously, some people can. But I think a lot of those people sometimes, they're either just putting it in on the whim at the last second. So, of course, you're going to see every side effect when you didn't use something. But usually, if you're going to use it for someone, 8 weeks out, I introduce it at a low dose. In the event there's any type of side effect that we don't want, hey, let's get rid of this. And then by that last week, I always tell people, because I had a person recently do Masters Nationals in Vegas and won. He was very afraid of taking it out because he said, hey, I'm like super hungry. And I said, listen, man, we're 4 days away. You look awesome. We're going to be getting food. Just deal with it. Like, honestly, deal with it, because I don't want to give you 500, 600 grams of carbs, and then there is an issue and you're not going to the bathroom or something like that. Now we have an issue. So that was my thing. So if I had to answer in a nutshell, does it help? For sure. Is it needed? I guess it depends on the person. If you can see, for you, if you were going to compete again, you have a lot on your plate. You're coaching, you're doing content creation. I feel like you're busy, but when the people that I coach sometimes that are just 125% bodybuilding and they do nothing all day, there's probably more food noise, I would think. Again, the top of the line guys, this is their career, so they've done so many preps, as we all know and can speak to. The more preps that you do, the more willpower, and you realize, okay, my reverse is important. Let me not become a fat ass overnight. But I think that first prep for a lot of people, I find it to be beneficial because it at least controls them from gaining the inevitable 15, 20 pounds in 2 or 3 days. And now it's like, hey, this improvement season is kind of compromised a little bit, you know?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, from what I'm hearing, it's usually like maybe 2 milligrams a day that people are taking, sometimes even more.
That's wild, man.
That'll shut you down for sure. Like I said, if you're bored and you start with 2 milligrams today, it's a Sunday, we're filming.
Well,
Monday, Tuesday, you're not going to eat. You're going to feel like, hey, I can't eat. This is horrible.
well, let's look at it this way too, because competitors already run into digestive issues during prep with going to the bathroom. Like it's like 75% of competitors, male, female, a lot of females in particular, run into some types of issues with evacuating the bowels at some point during prep, right? So I don't want to go too high and add to that, you know? But I think Kyle and I would both probably be in agreement that a key time to incorporate it would be that post show, you know, so that an athlete's not going to ruin this great physique. We can actually use it to maintain a great physique, still push your calories up in a very incremental fashion. And now 15 weeks after the show, you feel really good about yourself. You look good. You haven't put on a lot of bad body fat. You're insulin sensitive. You're ready for your next hard push into the off season and into your next prep. So I do think there's applications. I'm just not everyone gets on Reta, you know, the first time they inquire with me, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I know some guys from over here who are using the other stuff like Ozempic. I don't know how is it in English, but in Serbia we call it Victoza. It's similar. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly which one is a GLP, which I'm not sure. But they were doing that, and now Reta is here, and I would like to try it, but only if I start prepping. So yeah, that low of a dose, Kyle. I thought it was I should take more, but
no, I start low, and I get, like I said, when I talk to doctors on paper for things like Ozempic and stuff, they start you closer to 2 a week, and they say every 2 weeks bump it, and then you pretty much can cap out. I think you can go up to 10 of Reta. I know one person that took 7. He was throwing up, right? So that's not helpful.
I heard so.
You're trying to. Are you trying to make prep a little easier to endure, or are you trying to never eat any meals? What's the goal here? Because for bodybuilding, we want to preserve our muscle, which means we need to get our protein in. So
you can always take more. You can always take more. So start with something manageable. You can always incorporate 0.5 milligram a week.
Yeah. For me, like I said, I can always eat. I always have a very high appetite. And when I took upwards of 1 milligram a couple days in a row, like playing with it, I noticed like I didn't have an appetite. I didn't want to drink a protein shake. And I love food. So that's a significant problem, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not even sure if I can find the real thing over here. That's also.
That's one thing I want to point out to all our viewers since we did that one episode. The reality is because there's no regulations behind it, I've had people tell me, hey, I'm taking the prescribed dose that you recommend. I don't feel anything. And in my head, I'm like, if I'm double your body weight and I felt something, I find it a little weird, but okay. And then I'll switch them to another brand, same dose. Now they can't eat. You tell me what happened here, right? So I think there's a lot of the variables to consider. I think when people are just like when you find the generic growth and stuff, right? Some people are like, "Hey, this is better than pharma." Is it growth? Do we know what it is? It's just a powder. It says where it came from. Are you actually testing it? Did you watch the process? There's always things to consider in our days.
What do you think about this? Like, do you know, like when I buy GH over here, I mean, us, everybody here, we test our blood work. Like, we take a shot, like, let's say 5 IUs, 2 hours later, for example, we go and we test the GH and IGF-1 in our blood. How accurate is that? Is it possible to trick the test by maybe putting something else in it? Some
So, okay,
peptide?
so the GH, in my opinion, the best way to test for it is to take an intramuscular injection and line it up so you're going to get your labs done 3 hours post-injection and test your GH because that's when it should be peak at that time. And then also check your IGF-1. And IGF-1 should be more of a cumulative effect, right? Now, here's the thing. If you're a bodybuilder that's been dieting for 10, 12 weeks, your IGF-1 levels are going to be lower to begin with. So that IGF boost might only be giving you like 20 points on, and you still might look normal or even low normal. Okay. So if you're testing it in the off season, you're well fed, you've been sleeping well, your liver's working really well. Okay, you should see a higher number. But I also don't think that the IGF-1 level is a concrete example for everybody because I'll give you a couple examples. I've had people that I know they're taking real Serostim. I know where they got it from. I know and their IGF-1 levels were not markedly elevated. They were a little elevated, but they weren't like, oh my God. I've got another guy. He's a big boy. He's 280. He was taking 10 units of generics. His IGF-1 levels were 860. Okay. That's through the roof. That's
Yeah.
like 4 times what they should
I
be.
never seen that, yeah.
Well, so but I immediately thought, oh shit, does he have a tumor? Does he have the beginning of is his body telling us he's got cancer? So a simple test is pull the GH. Let's go and have you retest again in a month, which he did, and his IGF-1 levels were back down to like 267 or something like that, right? So we're like, okay, that's a good sign. Now take the GH again and go test just to make sure that test wasn't a false positive. His GH levels were right back up to 780 or 800 again, or IGF-1 levels were back up that high. So it's like some people are just really good responders with how their liver spits out IGF-1. So there's that variable to take into account as well.
What about just GH? Like if you, for example, the way I test my GH, I take like 5 IUs and I actually do it subcutaneously, and 2 hours later I do my blood work and I do both IGF-1 and GH. And when it's real, it actually shows a big increase. I'm just wondering, do you know if there is a way to trick that by putting something else in it, or if it's real GH, it's going to show? Like if it shows, it can be only GH.
Not
Or
on
does it
labs.
really matter? Like if you
Not on labs. But you know, keep in mind, like people testing everything is a new thing. People getting blood work done on you know
Yeah.
5 times a year is a new thing. When I was coming up, if you got your labs done once a year, that was a pretty big deal. Going back 15 years ago, right? So you would get some GH and you're like, oh, it's working because the scale's going up and I'm holding water. Back then, you could put a lot of HCG into those pellets, right? And you're injecting large amounts of HCG, and of course the scale's going to go up. You're going to feel like you're holding some water, and you're going to get a slight anabolic effect from it as well. So I think providers used to be able to get away with putting HCG into the pellets versus HGH. I think today there's no way to fake that shit now. I think that if you're testing your labs and you're seeing your GH levels are elevated 2-3 hours post injection, that's legit.
Okay. I recently got some fake GH, and I don't know what's inside it, but it's either like GH RP6 or some crazy sort of insulin. You guys can tell me what it is, because after I injected it, like it was actually burning. My skin was burning, and I got like some redness and crazy hunger and crazy hypoglycemia.
Oh,
It
IGF.
was
It's probably IGF-DES or IGF. Yeah, probably IGF-DES.
Oh,
That could cause some pretty intense hypoglycemia within
crazy.
like 30 minutes of taking it.
Less. It was like maybe 3 minutes after.
Oh, oh,
Very
wow.
fast. I thought it was some crazy, super fast insulin, but maybe it's something else. I'm not sure. And I tried it twice, and it was the same scenario: crazy hunger, sweating like crazy, eyes,
That
my vision blurring, hands
that
shaking,
sounds like
everything.
IGF-1. That sounds like a IGF-1 analog for sure. Yeah.
I
Huh.
think the other thing I wanted to touch on, as you were mentioning IGF-1 levels in prep, a lot of people, I don't know if it's popular where you are, metformin, right? A lot of people love using metformin, and that in itself will drive IGF levels down. So if you start a base, like I always tell people, don't your blood work you're getting in prep toward the end of prep, that's not going to be very accurate for things like IGF, right? Or your thyroid. If you're natural, I would expect it to be in the shitter, right? To where you either need thyroid support, you're using it potentially. So when you're in the past the reverse, past the health phase, in a good off season where you're not compromised, insulin sensitivity is not an issue, you'll see a lot of people and coaches here in America, they push metformin like it's like M&Ms. And I'm just like, what are we doing here, right? Like, first of all, there's much better things that don't cause any GI issues. And then if you're
Berberine.
not taking a super high level of growth hormone, you're just keeping IGF levels lower, right? So that defeats the purpose. So when you go to get that test, let's just say someone is using metformin right now, listening to this, and they're like, hey, I want to see if my growth hormone's real. Maybe the serum shows it's in a good spot, but IGF levels are tanked. They're going to think, oh, it must not be real. That's not necessarily the case because you might be taking something that's making it lower, right? Just like if you're malnourished, levels are always going to be lower. Natural test is going to be suppressed, right? So
You don't know.
those are all things to just consider.
I don't use metformin. I think I tried it like once, and it was making me too flat. I think it was too strong. I do
Hmm.
take berberine and chromium, picolinate, and alpha lipoic acid. I don't know if you guys
Yeah, they have
have.
that most G days here.
Yeah. You just have complete GDAs. Yeah.
Yep.
Uh, I have one question. Maybe it's I don't know if it's a question really, but like I'm also thinking about if I prep next time, I want to hire a high level coach, maybe so I can learn more. And it's a question of like, would you hire somebody more like let's say Chris Aceto, who I don't know how knowledgeable he really is, but I never really heard him talk too much into details. But it seems like he has great instincts. He I don't know, he doesn't explain too many things, but he makes the right moves. He has
Yeah.
experience. He has maybe the balls to do something that maybe doesn't make a lot of sense, but he feels like it makes sense. And there are some other guys who are so full of knowledge. I would say you two are like that. I don't know. I mean, you have also great results with the clients, but you're so knowledgeable and you're sharing that knowledge. Like, what style of a coach maybe would you choose, or I don't know if you have something to say about that.
Yeah, Andrew, you want to start?
Yeah, I will say this: no matter how knowledgeable someone is, nothing beats experience. I feel like in this bodybuilding world, because if you've seen something 1,000 times that works, and you still can't explain exactly why it works, it still worked. You know what I mean? So you're
Yeah,
going to do more of that thing, and
sure.
and this isn't saying that Chris Aceto isn't educated. He just doesn't talk about it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Coaches like Chris, coaches like Hani, they don't need to put out information because the top athletes are already ringing their phone.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but I think if you're talking about, hey, what coach can I learn something from someone on? I don't think a coach like Chris Aceto, because I know he does a lot of conversations with people, and he's like, hey, add in 200 grams of carbs today, or add in a muffin before the pre-workout, or what do you got for compound? There's no protocols. There's no we're doing this because of that, and because it's going to lead to this. There's not that explanation behind it. There's just, hey, do this, and let's see if it keeps working. We're going to do more of it, and it's experience based more than anything.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, there's a lot of great coaches out there that kind of bridge that gap because they have a lot of experience, but they also maybe take a little bit more time to explain the hows, the whys, the X's and O's behind it. So maybe Kyle has more to add.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people that work with the Aceto. Chad Nichols is another one that I would say is in that realm of been around for a long time, has some knowledge, doesn't really talk too much about it. I think I don't want to say it's a problem with them by any means, but from a communication standpoint, they're gonna just say, "Hey, this is what I need you to do." Don't ask questions, right? Because that's just how it's going to be. So, do I think it's because they don't know what they're doing? No, I think they know what they're doing based on experience. Now, if what you're seeking is, okay, let me see what they're doing and then I can troubleshoot it and reverse engineer, yeah, go that route. But if your goal is to ask at any point along the way, hey, I just kind of want to understand what your thought process is. Like, what are you seeing? And then you want a coach that explains that, or is going to say, hey, even this is like the next 2 weeks, this is what I'm thinking, I'm looking for. That's where you start to figure out, okay, who am I going to be suited well with? And for some people, you know, you have someone like Shane Hughley, right? He did awesome with bikini clients here. His explanations, he's more of like a, hey, I need you to do this. Does he know what he's doing? Absolutely. But does he take the time to send 5-10 minute videos over? No, because he's not going to be able to get the results. So I think you have to kind of weed through, you see the forest through the trees and say, okay, what is this person? Are they just working with genetic anomalies to where this guy looked good already? Or are they taking people that are like Kyle who suck and gets better, you know, over time and see where you can get to? So I think that's the thing to consider. But when I've seen plans, at the end of the day, bodybuilding, it's like a simple thing. We eat the same goddamn foods. The only thing I noticed that becomes a problem when you get into that notorious 30 and over club, things you did when you were 20 start not to work. Or you start to think, everyone goes through this, and even probably clients you have and will have, they think more is better. I need 1,500 milligrams of test. Coach, you took it. Why can't I? Okay, I don't think you do, but let's try it. Right? And then when it doesn't work, you regain their trust and you can kind of program things. But I think working through the digestive things is what top line coaches can do. At the end of the day, when someone just wants results, hey, maybe someone like Aceto might not help you through gut dysbiosis, but if you're perfect, he's going to know how to drive the fucking car. He's going to get you to the finish line. Yeah. But if something goes wrong along the way, I'm sure maybe even he's like, hey, I don't know what's going on. You got to go somewhere else, you know?
That's what I wanted to say. Yeah, I see like the new school coaches are maybe better at problem solving. Like, and also like the main thing is the digestion stuff and gut stuff. Like that's what the new school coaches are big on. I don't think Aceto is like, for example, Chad Nichols are going to help you solve that sort of a problem, for example. And I also don't think Aceto, for example, is very much hands-on on training, which is also very important.
Yeah.
So yeah, and also I don't think like he knows the whole history on Retatrutide, for example, and that kind of stuff.
No, I think they're in that. I don't want to say old school because they're still in our top of our contemporary. They're still the top guys, but there's so much new. All these sauces, for example. I don't know if you guys are big on using condiments, but here in America, I see new ones every week, and like some of them are awesome. They're minimal ingredients, they're clean, and then there's other ones I see someone using, and they're like, "Hey, coach, I don't know what's going wrong. My weight's going up. I'm following the diet, but I tried this new sauce." And then they show me the ingredients, and I'm like, yeah, it says 0 calories, but let's get that shit out and watch our weight come back down. So they didn't have all this stuff back in the day. So I don't think a lot of the issues we see from a gut standpoint existed, nor did all these new peptides and stuff like that. People did bodybuilding because they, like you, were super passionate. They loved it. They didn't do it for social media, where you have a lot of people now that they're not athletes at heart. They shouldn't compete, but they're doing it because they're trying to build a brand or pretend they're someone they're not. And I think that's where you see all these issues arise and crap like that. But that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I'm also seeing like, especially over here, maybe not so much, because like in the world scene, everybody I know about is already successful. But like over here, I'm seeing guys who are educated, I would say, but they don't have a lot of experience. And I think there's something to say about the instincts. Like, I think also to be a good coach, either got it or you don't. Like, sometimes you need to feel it, like what you need to do. It's not all science. But, I mean, of course, having a lot of knowledge is not hurting, I think.
The last thing I'll touch on is, Andrew, you said, you can have all the knowledge in the world, right? You can say, hey, give me the problem, I will solve it, because they either use ChatGPT or maybe they're an encyclopedia themselves. But when push comes to shove, when you're getting ready for stage and you're looking at the person, there is no problem to be given. It's like, hey, do you look better now or did you look better a couple hours ago? What am I seeing? And there's coaches I spoke to sometimes where I'll ask them, like, why did you give them more fats this meal and like no carbs? What was your thought process? This is what I saw. And sure enough, it's like, it worked. And I can figure out why it worked. But at the time, if you can't see that or you're studying pictures, I always tell people when they look at things, if you are looking at a picture for more than 2 seconds, 3 seconds, you're missing it. You're not seeing it. You're like trying to look for something that doesn't exist. So you should be able to see 2 pictures, A and B. That's good. This is before a refeed. This is after. Is he fuller? Where? Okay, cool. Is he flat still? This is how to go. So that goes beyond the knowledge. That's where the eye, I think the eye of Aceto, the eye of honey, they have the eye to where, regardless if they have the knowledge, which
Exactly.
they obviously do, they see what to do. So it's like, hey, I don't give a fuck what you know. I know what to do because I see it.
Well said, well said. It happened to me recently, like with one of my female clients. Like she was prepping for a show, and we went really hard because she was kind of behind, and she was doing a ton of cardio, eating almost nothing, and we did a hard dehydration as well with water loading and sodium loading and everything, aldactone, because she's always holding a lot of water. I have to do that with her, and she wasn't in shape on that day. I had no idea why. I don't think she cheated or anything like that. And something told me to do this. Actually, after that, I told her to eat whatever she wants that night after the show. Just eat whatever you want. And she ate a lot. And then the next week, I actually gave her some carbs and like pre-workout especially, and maybe less cardio. And we did the same protocol, same dehydration, and she transformed. I think she lost like, I don't know, 15 pounds. So, and I also after that, I read about this thing called whoosh effect. I don't know if you know what it is, but like when you lose the fat cells stay there because of like when your cortisol is high, they can actually still stay but be depleted. And then when you eat and you relax your body, lower the cortisol, the stress, they actually disappear, or they get dehydrated. They're full of water, not fat. So I think maybe that happened. I don't know, but
My understanding is that you never truly get rid of fat cells unless you
yeah.
do lipolysis, where or you actually what is it, where they suck the fat out, or they do the cryo, where they cut it out. You can only shrink fat cells, but you can very easily make new fat cells when you're in an energy surplus. You know what I'm saying? So it sounds like you dehydrated the fat cells and
Yes.
defatted the fat cells, for lack of a better term, right? They were as compacted and as free of mass as possible. So
Yeah, yeah. Like it says that they can hold water inside. Yeah. When cortisol is high, when you're pushing too much cardio, I mean, I don't know if it's true, but like I asked ChatGPT, and it explained that to me. Whatever it was, it worked.
okay.
Yeah.
I
But the
mean,
key takeaway there, right? Just because it worked with her doesn't mean people listening that's going to work with, right? So
Yeah.
that's where it's like, hey, you have the experience with someone like her. Maybe you'll encounter her in future preps like that, or you keep it in mind. But everyone is different, and that's where it's like, hey, it's not black and white, and it's more of
Yeah.
people explain Novadex, right, Andrew? Oh, it doesn't. It has no place in bodybuilding. Well, I can tell you when I put that motherfucker
really,
in, what happens cosmetically, okay?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe you don't think it is for this male patient here, but when I put it in a prep versus when I don't have it, I see something different. So I'm going to go with what I see versus, well, the textbook says.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see like so many things. Like the science says this, but I know in experience, it definitely it's not like that. I mean, I
Well,
also
here's,
wanted to.
let me cut. The science used to say that AAS did not contribute to muscular growth or athletic performance. That the anabolic steroid, that's what the science, the textbook said, and the medical community believed up until, I think, 1986 or something like that. So the science changes, if you know what I mean.
The science is only right until proven wrong. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so I wanted to ask you like about the peak week protocols if you have time. I don't know how much are you
Yeah, sure.
like from what I'm seeing, like especially like with the top level coaches, not a lot of you do the old school thing with the water loading, sodium loading, and nobody takes aldactone anymore. I don't know about thiazide. Like from what I'm seeing, usually the peak weeks nowadays are not really peak weeks that much. It's just bringing the guy and or the girl in a condition and then just cruising into the show, maybe slight manipulation. Do you still do sometimes maybe like hardcore peak weeks?
Let me tell you why. Is because I think early on, and I think a lot of our coaching careers, we tried something that we learned or we read or heard about, and we saw it go like sideways. They looked 20% worse the day of the show, and we're like, we did everything right. We did everything, based off the science and based off what was described to us. And it's like, well, wait a minute. This guy looked, or this girl looked really good last Saturday. How do I just make them look 2 to 5% better, just a little bit fuller and a little bit drier, right? And I think it comes down to, let's not get too greedy. Let's not get too too ambitious with what we're trying to do here. I'm not going to take a 165-pound middleweight and turn him into a 225-pound shredded dry heavyweight. You know what I mean? So what can I do with that athlete that's just going to, it's almost like the anti-peak peak, if you get what I'm saying. It's we're going to bring what we brought, and we're just going to try to get a little bit drier and just a little bit fuller. And a lot of that's just based off of the actual dieting, right? Like if I know I got someone on, say, a 1 high day and then 2 low days type plan, and all I got to do is look and see, okay, do they look better the day after the high day? Do they look better 2 days after the high day? Or do they look better that morning when I'm planning to do another high day, which would be the 3rd low day, really? So I can just use that and be like, okay, that's when they look their best. That's when their glycogen levels look fullest. That's when their body looks the driest. That's when their skin looks good. Their body looks fresh. I'm going to try to replicate that so that Saturday morning, come show day, they're going to be on whatever it turned out, whatever looks the best on that in that rotation. I'm going to try to set that up come Saturday morning.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think people looked at it. Again, you asked a question about if you got back into it, what coach should use, a high-level coach or maybe a more knowledgeable coach, etc. Certain coaches, I mean, I know from being firsthand at the Olympia, they use heavy diuretics. Aldactone is heavily used. The diazides are plural used, right? Oh. So I think it really depends on the person's style, what they feel comfortable with. But all I can speak to is I've had people where I've used aldactone. I didn't really like the look, so I didn't use it again. Based on what aldactone does and the half-life and how it builds up in your system, you can emulate something very similar if you just go to like a new salt or something like that, right? And you work that in if you want. But then when you're talking about diuretics and things of that nature, the more you use, the more you have to counteract, right? So you start playing chemical warfare, and some of those good guys, when I say good guys, those high-level coaches like to play chemical warfare, and they're like, hey, here's a diazide, let's see what it does. Or, hey, let's just say in theory, Andrew, you told me to take a quarter diazide and I took 3/4. We have to make an adjustment. I fucked up, right? And it happens at the top level to where sometimes the guys are told the wrong thing or they did the wrong thing. And now you have to react. You can't just say, okay, well, go out there and see what happens. But again, it's also all of these guys at the top level that are using diuretics to that magnitude, they can probably speak to preps and say, hey, I looked better when I did this. I've had someone who recently compete. They've worked with a series of different coaches from Farah to Jansen to me now. And we've all had different protocols. And it's like at the end of the day, the person is always in shape, right? Yeah. It just matter what's harsher on their body. What was a profound difference. When I calculate food and things like that, I'm thinking from an electrolyte side of things, okay, do I have potassium in this meal? I know Hani's very big with using potatoes. Potatoes are going to have more potassium than rice, right? So that's going to be his reason why he's using certain potatoes. Is it a white potato? Is it a red potato? Is it a yellow potato? All different potassium levels in these things. So I think with our podcast with Tuttle, he spoke to the fact that pineapple and dates, they have potassium in them. So if we know as we're going through each meal, okay, I'm giving you this amount of milligrams of sodium, this amount of potassium, you know how to control it. But if you're using like something like a non-potassium sparing diuretic, like a Boomex or something, you have to really think of these things so you can fuck somebody up. And that's where people, they start going to be 5% better. You could be with a diuretic 5% better, or you could be 25% worse. Choice is yours. But again, I always tell people, can't be delusional. We're not all Ronnie Coleman, right? We can think we are at some point, and that's the dream. But as you touched on, hey, you took heavier uses of drugs, and you got to 270, which is substantial. Still wasn't good enough, and the guy you lost to got his butt whooped, right? So it's like, hey, I need to be realistic and go back to the drawing board. Do I really want to do this? Where can I get to?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. But like me personally, as far as the peak weeks, I actually, like, when somebody is in great shape, already super shredded, if I get them to that point, which, doesn't happen always. Some guys just, I don't know if it's them or something, but they don't get in crazy condition at 1 week out. If that's the case, in my experience, if I do a little bit more of a harder peak week with water and sodium loading, with more diuretics, and also maybe like some insulin and heavy loading at the end, it can actually bring out certain look in them that they didn't have 1 week out. I think it has a place. Maybe it's a little bit more risky, but it can be done. But if somebody is in great condition, yeah, I just cruise them into the show, like maybe a refeed and maybe a little bit less water or something like that. But I also wanted to ask you a direct question. What happened did you speak about this? What happened with Nick exactly? Like, how did you miss the peak? Did you do something crazy and backfired, or?
I would say how we were a little off was from a timing perspective with the water intake. I started controlling that, and I spoke on this. There's actually a podcast I just did with Hani Rambad, his The Truth podcast.
I didn't see it yet, but yeah.
Yeah, so take a look at that. I'm plugging that podcast for you. And as far as the details, I started sharing pictures with a couple of my close resources. Andrew is one of them. Of like, hey, this is where I have him at. I started controlling water. There's a diuretic that I didn't think we need to use, but we're going to put it in. And I didn't do what we did for Pittsburgh or New York, and that's where, looking back, hey, I should have just timed it the same way. Obviously, the body's a little different place. I knew I was feeding the person more. When you're feeding someone a lot of food, you need to keep water in. You can't just take water out, put more food, because a lot of people think to be fuller, that means you control fluids completely, no fluids, and just feed them. Well, the food's got to get pushed somewhere, right? So that's where I knew timing-wise was messed up, and that's why we were able to correct it real quickly going into the second night. But obviously, I wasn't going to change anything from a placing standpoint.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
Yeah, let me add to that a little bit. I thought, because like we showed on our podcast, after I think meal 3 that day, if Nick would have walked out looking like that, I think the conversation for that whole evening, that whole weekend would have been 100% different. I think in hindsight, if he would have just pulled the food back a little bit and kept the water going, I think that would have kept that look going perfectly. He would have kept the fullness, the detail, all that. But now I also want to mention that I do know that there are some things that Kyle was asking that maybe the athlete just didn't want to do. They didn't feel comfortable. And I'm not talking drugs. I'm talking food choices. And I'm talking about things to encourage making sure the midsection looked as tight as possible. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of times people think, wow, this coach really messed up. And it's like, well, the coach asked him to do this, that, and the other thing, and the athlete just said no, or said, no, I don't feel comfortable. I'd rather do this. I always do this. I like this better. And so I do want to point that out.
That's a topic for my new video. Nick Walker did not listen to Kyle Wilkes.
That's not good.
I'm just saying that, there's some things, and then I also want to point out that a lot of times, we think athletes have it all together, but like when it comes to posing, for instance, okay, and you find out the day before the show, like, oh, you haven't been posing at all, or when we're asking you to activate your quads, why aren't they activating? Like, why aren't you flexing them? You're not even moving. Or pull your stomach in, you're not doing anything different than what you just did 3 seconds ago. So it's like a coach can only work with how much the athlete is giving him in that time period. And I think this is one of those situations where, there's some, I guess, blame to be gone around. You know what I mean? Just as someone that was watching the situation, friends with both parties, I'll say that, friends with both parties, and just seeing like, oh, wow, like this isn't going right. And it's not just because the coach made a bad decision on one meal is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
looking back, like hindsight's always 20/20. Like as we all coach and learn, it's like experience speaks volumes, right? So it's like, hey, would I do things differently moving forward if I had another shot? Yeah, of course. But at the same time, like when you're in that given moment, it's like, okay, I don't think, can this be catastrophic? No? All right, let's roll with it, see what happens. Again, at the end of the day, someone placing in the top 10 still at the biggest show is pretty fucking phenomenal. Yeah. Do I think he should have been higher? Yeah, I think he could have been higher. Do I think it was going to be a victory? No, not given how other guys showed up. Not this year. I hope in the future it's a little different for him, but
Yeah. Cool. Well, Even, thank you so much for joining us today, man. I'm a fan of your show. I'm sure any of our listeners and followers that haven't had exposure to your show, guys, get over there, follow his channel. It's Even Bodybuilding. What's your Instagram, Even?
Even Bodybuilding Coaching.
Even Bodybuilding Coach. Cool. We'll make sure we get that up on the screen. Guys, give us a like, a comment, ask us, or leave a question of something maybe we forgot to ask Even. We can ask him and do a follow-up video at some point in the future. With that, Even, thanks for joining us, and we are Unwracked.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.